Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest aliens and UFOs video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another one here based on one of your newer suggestions. This one just a little bit short on info, only because there's not really much to discuss about, even in terms of an actual sighting of the UFO. Rather, instead, it was seen on a piece of equipment. And so that intrigued me, at least, because when I was looking at the information, it seems like for all intents and purposes, nobody really saw this particular UFO, but it was definitely tracked somewhere. And what also intrigued me was the fact that the location, I think this is the first time I've run into anything involving a story of UFOs there in Australia. Now, I've definitely talked about cryptids before there in Australia, but it looks like, sure enough, there is particularly an island located down south there in Australia. That's where it has a good number of UFO sightings. So it has to do with this. It's known as the UFO sighting there on Kangaroo Island. Very unique name when it comes to that island. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the brief but fascinating info associated with this one-time encounter. So what was this UFO sighting there on Kangaroo Island? Well, it has to do with this. You have to go back to 1969, August in particular, and it has to do with a gentleman by the name of Alan Potter. So he was there servicing, it looks like, a radar near a place called Adelaide Airport, and it was nearby this place called Kangaroo Island. Just a brief history on Kangaroo Island, and as I was looking up this info, you can see here it's a beautiful looking island. It's just right there on the south side, almost the south side, it looks like, of Australia. Apparently it used to be connected to Australia itself, but rising waters, especially through glaciers, caused the waters to, I guess, overlap certain parts of land until eventually it just became an island on its own. But you can go there to this day, and it remains one of the most popular tourist spots there in Australia. You can see, of course, beautiful kangaroos there, hence the name of the Kangaroo Island. But there's a lot of other pretty popular locations there. Some specific spots that stand out, like Remarkable Rocks, another one known as Admiral's Arch, and another one known as Kelly Hill Caves. Just a bunch of stuff that people can go and see, and that includes locations and then, of course, the wildlife itself. Pretty neat. If you're able to go there, you can pretty much, it looks like, walk up to the kangaroos themselves. They'll probably mind you as long as you don't do anything funny to them. But otherwise, that'd be neat to see wildlife that up close and personal. But back to this UFO sighting. So there in the 60s, Kangaroo Island seemed to experience a plethora. I love that word, especially in that movie. I can't remember the movie, but it was making fun of that word specifically. But yes, there was a huge abundance of, in this case, UFO sightings. Maybe it was, whatever reason, the UFOs there decided that this was a place that interested them. And on that night in August 1969, this guy, Alan Potter, happened to be at the right place at the right time. So he was again near that Adelaide airport. He was servicing a radar there because his job title was as an apprentice radio technician. So his location was there by the airport, which was somewhere nearby, in this case, Kangaroo Island. And his job was just servicing it, and it allowed him to see what was on the radar at the same time. That's when he noticed something that he considered very peculiar appear on there. Now you're looking at this. This was a Fokker Friendship aircraft, or whatever it was called. I don't even know if they're still in existence to this day, but you can see there that this was an aircraft that was probably used either for tourism or some other business notion. This was being tracked on the radar. That's not what stood out. Instead, there was this large object that suddenly appeared on the radar, not nearby, in this case, this Fokker Friendship aircraft, but instead it was coming from a place called Port Lincoln. And as it was there, it slowly but surely started to approach. This is again all on the radar itself. he started to approach this aircraft. This is important again because Alan Potter did not see visually any of this. Like wherever this aircraft was, it was too far away for him to see it. Instead, he was just looking at what was happening through the radar. You know how the radar does that full 360-degree circle when it comes to that green line, and each time it moves one more time across the full 360 degrees, it'll give a new updated image, and it'll just be real time, like it'll update itself every couple of seconds. So as he was seeing that friendship aircraft flying, he saw this large thing also coming towards it from Port Lincoln. But then things took a rather interesting turn yet again. From that large object that was being detected on the radar, there was a small object that looked to leave it. And not only that, but it went again towards that Fokker plane, and it was approaching it much quicker than the larger aircraft. So it seemed like something actually separated itself, whatever it was, from the larger object, almost to go straight to that plane to inspect it firsthand. So how neat is that? Like he's seeing all of this on that radar that particular day. It must have been riveting for him too, because clearly that radar, that it wasn't like tracking something and probably describing it as to what it was, while the other aircraft was, how they have those machines, those equipments in there that let radars know who they are exactly. Like he could probably tell exactly, like that was the Fokker friendship, but this other one was not. So he saw that it approached it, it got right towards it. In fact, they met close to the Kangaroo Island, and then after a little bit, it seems like then whatever the smaller signal was, it decided it was done, and it went back into the larger signal. And then once that was done, then the larger signal just disappeared from the radar itself. That was it. That was the actual encounter in terms there of Alan Potter there at the Adelaide airport. As far as if you're wondering, well, this plane, if it had passengers, if it was at least the pilots themselves, did they see anything as far as something there right with them? Because again, the radar was stating that it was there right with them, but did they see anything? The thing was no. They actually said that nothing was there. I guess they were asked sometime afterward, either by this guy, Alan Potter, or someone else, did they see anything surrounding them, notice anything unusual? But no, absolutely not. They did not. So what could it have been? Could it have been an actual smaller UFO? Could it have been one of those very smaller ones, like the pinpoint ones that I talked about in the past, like the Foo Fighters, the ones that tend to examine planes themselves? Who knows? But whatever it was, it made its one-time appearance there along with the larger object, and then it was gone thereafter. No other experience, it seems like, happened afterward, at least with regards to Alan Potter. If he hasn't mentioned anything else afterward, but this is it. This was the only one. It was investigated, in fact, by a UFO group back in 2004 to try to decide if there was anything else that could be, I guess, contributed to it. But no, in this case, no, that was it. The UFO, the Australian UFO Research Network just simply logged it, and then nothing else was given in terms of additional info. But that's it. So if anybody has anything else I might have missed, please post those comments below. Pretty unique experience, when you think about it. Here was somebody that didn't see anything visually in terms of the UFO or in terms of it meeting, in this case, this Fokker friendship aircraft. Instead, they saw all of this on the radar, and the very people in the aircraft also didn't see anything. For all they knew is, they were just busy flying the plane and never witnessed anything. And yet we have visual proof on the radar showcasing it. I tried to find too if there was anything as far as images associated with the radar, if it was being kept. I don't know if that stuff is recorded, if it's recorded live somewhere, and then you can play it back afterward, but I wasn't able to see it. But if anybody has more info on that, that'd be pretty neat to hear too. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.